Now that the 2023 World Series is over, the Yankees have a lot to do. What's going on, baseball fans? Jeremy Laracuente here for the Baseball Banter Broadcast, bringing you our 2023 post-mortem episode for the New York Yankees. There's a lot to do. There's no doubt about it. There's no question about it. There's a lot to do for the New York Yankees. So we're going to go over what happened in 2023, some highs, a lot of lows, and what the Yankees can do this offseason to make sure that this does not happen again in 2024. So let's begin looking at 2023. In that, the Yankees would finish 82 and 80, just barely over the 500 mark. And it would be the 30th consecutive season, I believe it was, for the Yankees to finish with that mark. Now, let's be clear. Being over 500 is not a winning season for the New York Yankees. This franchise, this fan base has become very, very unbelievably understanding when it comes to what winning actually is. Obviously, other fan bases will call us spoiled, and there's no doubt about it. We have an air of confidence in our team. We always have, we always will. But the simple fact is that finishing over 500 is not a winning season, despite the fact that it is a winning record. There's two different things there. For the New York Yankees, a winning season is a championship caliber season. Now, obviously, things can happen, right? We remember very, very vividly 2001. Obviously, it was a failure because we didn't win the World Series, but we just got beat, right? And you can live with those seasons a little bit better, right? Not that one in particular, but you can live with seasons in which you were beaten by a better team or you faltered at the end. You can understand those things a little bit more than what we saw in 2023. There's no doubt about it. This was a failure of a season, even though we ended with a winning record. Now, what were some of the flaws that this team had? And there were quite a bit, right? But there's going to be a few that I'm really going to harp on. First and foremost, the Yankees looked old and unathletic. And yes, second half in September, we started to see the kids come up, started to give them more time, more playing opportunities. No doubt about it, that started to change the mood, not just in the clubhouse, but with the fan base and on the on-field product. That being said, going forward, the Yankees are going to have to rely more on their young players. And obviously, young, unproven players are not going to generate the same kind of national buzz as kind of these veteran players with established names. But the thing about it is, Yankee fans, and we've always been this way, are much more willing to ride the highs and lows with our own guys than someone else's. And it never been more true than watching the highs and lows of what this season was for Anthony Volpe, right? Anthony Volpe has a potential to win a Gold Glove. He put up a 2020 season as a rookie, so those are highlight moments. But overall, when you looked at the way that he performed this season, there's a lot that needs to be stepped up by Volpe in 2024. Now, let's be very clear. I absolutely love the fact that we started him to begin the 2023 season and rode him all the way through. I truly believe the best is yet to come for Anthony Volpe because of the fact that the Yankees not just showed confidence in him to give him the start to begin throughout the season, but also through his struggles in the middle. They continued to put him out there. They continued to say, hey, you're our guy. We believe in you. And we were rewarded with some highlights, some positive moments in his rookie campaign. Now, is it the same kind of rookie campaign that we were all hoping for? No. And I'm sure Anthony would be the first one to tell you this was not exactly how he wanted his season to go. A 2020 finish? Absolutely. Maybe even more. But the batting average, I'm sure, is a sore spot for him. Playing Gold Glove caliber defense, a great thing for us. The Yankees are going to have to push this team, and it's going to be difficult, and it's going to take money to be able to do so, but they're going to have to move this team from the old, unathletic-looking team that they had in 2023 to a much more youthful and athletic, diverse lineup than they have last season. They're going to have to make that switch. Again, it's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be a necessary thing for New York to not have the same thing happen in 2024 as it did in 2023. Secondly, injuries are no excuse. One of the biggest things that was said throughout the entire season was about the injuries, and obviously they play a factor. The fact that Anthony Rizzo was playing through 2 months of concussion symptoms is absolutely ridiculous. It's one of the things that has made me question the hiring process of this organization over the last several years. They completely revamped their training staff, completely fired everybody over a few years ago. It has not gotten better. There needs to be an absolute overhaul and full scale examination of what we expected there to be with the outside company auditing the New York Yankees. Clearly, that was a story that was spun at the beginning of the time frame when that was announced to what was actually taking place. But nevertheless, the Yankees are going to need to be able to re-examine their training staff, their health and wellness, their fitness regiments, because this season proved that this team cannot survive a couple of injuries. Absolutely proved it. Now, I say injuries are no excuse because there were teams that made the postseason that were decimated much worse than the New York Yankees. Now, obviously, losing Aaron Judge for the amount of games that we lost them is a big time blow. But the fact that this team had to rely on one player to provide the offense shows the weakness in this organization right now. The Dodgers were faced with a ton of injuries. The Tampa Bay Rays absolutely decimated, basically lost their entire starting rotation to injuries, and yet they still managed to win 100 games and make the postseason. No doubt about it in my mind that this team needs to reevaluate their coaching staff. And I've been a very big proponent and a very big believer that Boone needs to go, despite the fact that the players love him. Yes, he will go to bat and defend his players. But I don't think he has the voice that is necessary to push this clubhouse over the top. I've said it for years. I'm not going to harp on that. We know that Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone are both coming back. It's not there's no point in beating a dead horse on that because they're staying. So at this point, we have to figure out a way around and to be able to win in spite of Aaron Boone, as the Yankees did in his first 2 seasons as manager, as compared to this past season. Boone is the type of guy and the type of manager, he's proven it, that with a team that is a championship caliber team, he can help kind of keep them in line. He can help keep them pushing forward with his positive, up-tempo nature. But a team that is in this position, in this condition, Boone to me is not the right voice. But again, we're not going to beat a dead horse on that. We know there's not a new manager coming this season, right? The Yankees would have to absolutely falter and fall on their face the way they did in 2023, again in 2024, for his contract to not be renewed, and more so for Brian Cashman to be put out the door. So nevertheless, we're going to ignore that part of it because it's absolutely not going to happen. So no sense in weighing on it. One of the other things, and this is definitely towards Brian Cashman, there's no balance on this team. The New York Yankees of 2023 absolutely 1000% proved that they were not just so right-handed heavy, but beyond right-handed heavy to the point where every single bat was the same in the lineup. There was no diversity in this lineup. And not even just lefties, right? Obviously, when Anthony Rizzo went down with his concussion, he was not the same player thereafter. He was supposed to be the protection for Judge, the breakup between Judge and Stanton, and the similarity that they have. But this entire lineup did one thing: tried to hit home runs. Now, mind you, we got some good offensive outputs from guys. Gleyber Torres had a tremendous season. Aaron Judge, despite missing all the time that he missed, had a tremendous offensive season. Again, Anthony Volpe, a 2020 campaign. But this entire team went through this lineup each and every single time with the same exact approach. There was no deviation. Everyone was trying to go for the downs, hit a 5-run home run with no one on base. There's no doubt in my mind that the lineup construction that this team has had and has displayed over the last several years has been one of the biggest detriments and downfalls to this absolutely legendary organization. One of the biggest things, and I will never forgive Brian Cashman for this, as much as I have defended Brian Cashman in the past, and a lot, because it has not been an easy thing to believe in Brian Cashman and the fact that he's been able to keep this team playing winning baseball for the most part over the last 20, 25, 30 years. But losing out on a franchise altering left-handed bat in Bryce Harper when all you had to do was give him money, not even cost you prospects, because we're going to get into one that's going to cost you prospects in a minute, but not going after Bryce Harper, not even having a conversation to see what it would take. Now, am I saying that he would have signed here? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Bryce Harper has shown that he absolutely loves Philadelphia now and plays like his hair is on fire for that city. But there was never a doubt before that his team and the team that he wanted to be with was the Yankees. He grew up a Yankees fan. He's talked about it. He's talked about being surprised that not even a conversation was had to bring him to the Bronx. Now, it may sound like sour grapes, crying over spilled milk all these years later. But my point about Bryce Harper and not even having a conversation goes to lineup construction. Yes, the right-handed bats that you've brought in have the ability to go the opposite way, have the ability to take advantage of the short porch in right field. However, look back at the championship teams that this organization has put together. The biggest and baddest lineups had power hitting left-handers in the lineup. Think back to the last World Series championship for this team. Had a bunch of left-handers and switch hitters. You're talking Johnny Damon was a left-handed bat. Mark Teixeira was a switch hitter. You had Melky Cabrera, who would hit some home runs at times, a switch hitter. Robinson Cano, left-handed bat. Hideki Matsui, the World Series MVP, left-handed bat. Nick Swisher, switch hitter. You had balance in the lineup, right? This team has displayed a absolutely remarkable stubbornness. And Brian Cashman, because he's the one that's putting this team together. He and his crew, his team, his analytics department have showed a willful ignorance of the market, a willful ignorance of understanding lineup construction, of understanding your stadium. The new Yankee Stadium is built in the same exact way, to the same exact dimensions as the old stadium. The nickname for the original Yankee Stadium was the house that Ruth built. Babe Ruth, a left-handed bat. Behind Ruth in those Murder Road Yankee lineups was Lou Gehrig, another left-handed bat. This lineup is so devoid of impactful lefty bats that, to me, that in and of itself shows a willful stubbornness by Brian Cashman and his team to say we know better. And if what these last several years have taught us as Yankee fans, as baseball fans, is that no one knows more than the game itself. And the simple fact is that the Yankees need to rebalance this lineup if they're ever going to have a chance to get back to the promised land. The next thing, and again, this kind of goes to lineup construction, is the fact that the Yankees proved in 2023 they were far too reliant on Aaron Judge. Aaron is going to do amazing and incredible things as long as he stays healthy. There's no doubt in my mind. I genuinely believe that had he not run into the wall at Dodger Stadium, he would have put up another 50, 60 home run campaign. I believe that in 2024, that is a legitimate possibility for Aaron Judge once again. I believe that Aaron Judge will be the one to break the single season home run record. I've made that prediction before in our preseason predictions, and I will continue to do so because that's how much faith I have in the ability of a player like Aaron Judge. But the simple fact is that the only way that Aaron is going to have those opportunities is that the rest of the lineup around him has to serve as protection. Obviously, teams are going to game plan around Judge and not let him be the one that beats them. But the simple fact is that the rest of this anemic lineup from 2023 can no longer hit the same way in 2024. There needs to be a balance to it. There needs to be protection for Judge because he cannot be the sole offensive force in this lineup. You know he's going to do his thing. They're going to make mistakes to him, and he is going to capitalize. The approach that Aaron Judge has is different than everyone else. Aaron Judge goes up there looking to be a hitter with power, not a power hitter. And that's where the lineup construction of this team has absolutely failed. No doubt about it in my mind that it comes down to the construction of this lineup, the failures of the 2023 New York Yankees. The next point that I want to make is that the Yankees had no depth this season. Yes, they've made a lot of trades over the last several years to try to improve their team that have absolutely failed. The Frankie Montas deal failed. Joey Gallo failed. Josh Donaldson, utter failure. The Yankees had far too many at-bats this past season from players that are quadruple A players at best. Willie Calhoun, Billy McKinney, Jake Bowers, no doubt about it, should not have ever had as many at-bats as they had this season. None. It should have been at best a third of the at-bats that they had this season. The fact that the Yankees were not willing to see the future because the writing was on the wall. If you had a couple of injuries, this team was going to really be in a struggling place. And that's what happened. To not have the foresight to see you need to build up quality depth in your minor leagues is a problem. It's one thing to be able to bring in these veterans to offset if there is a major injury that happens, right? Because injuries are going to happen. It's no excuse. It's not something that you use as a crutch. You know that's going to happen. You prepare for it. The Yankees were ill prepared for injuries in 2023. And it showed. It showed all season long. There's no doubt about it in my mind that the Yankees are going to have to rebuild not just the roster construction of this lineup, but also the depth in this organization. And they have some quality players to be able to do it. And that brings me to my last point on the negative side of 2023. The Yankees waited far too long to bring up the kids. You saw when we started to get some youth and infuse that into the lineup, the Yankees started to play better. They started to play like a team that looked like they were playing for something. Obviously, the Yankees were eliminated. They were honestly eliminated since May, no matter how much we would have liked to believe different, myself included. And I don't ever count the Yankees out until mathematically eliminated. But the simple fact is, watching this team on a nightly basis, you knew long ago that they were not going to be a World Series caliber team. So instead of giving out a ton of at-bats to guys like Josh Donaldson, Willie Calhoun, Billy McKinney, you should have brought the kids up earlier. Because the impact and the difference that was made was significant. It brought hope once again to a fan base that was absolutely starved for positives from Yankee baseball. Now, obviously, we had some setbacks even there with the injury to Jason Dominguez, but nevertheless, the Yankees played much better baseball when the kids were brought up and given the opportunity to play in and day out. Now, as I said, there were some highlights, some good moments to come out of 2023. Obviously, Judge continued his pace outside of the injuries, and I genuinely believe that had he not been injured, would have put up another 60 home run campaign. There's no doubt in my mind that he would have. To end the season with 37 home runs after missing so much time, only playing in 106 games, I believe, out of 162. Judge would have been in the 150 range. To be able to still end up with 37 home runs is absolutely a testament to the ability and the will to be successful that Aaron Judge has. Secondly, Garrett Cole's performance this season was absolutely masterful. If Garrett Cole does not win the Cy Young Award, it is absolutely a travesty, and baseball needs to be investigated for collusion because there's no one else in the American League that could have stood toe to toe with Garrett Cole this year. Next, there was the development of Clark Schmidt and Michael King. Now, obviously, King's development as a starter came much later in the season when things were already falling off the rails. But nevertheless, we would see them both take huge strides forward and be legitimate parts of what we believe can be a very solid rotation in 2024. The next point, and this is more of wishful thinking, but Carlos Rodon cannot be as bad in 2024 as he was in 2023. There just can't be much worse. There can't be any worse. So in 2024, you have to believe that this is going to be a player that shows up in a much better form than what was presented to us in 2023. This is a guy who was coming off of arguably some of the best seasons the past two seasons before 2023, playing for the Giants. Now, obviously, a different ballpark, different things happen in terms of the spacious cavern that is the San Francisco Giants ballpark and Yankee Stadium. Very big difference. Nevertheless, it cannot get any worse than what we saw in 2023. So you have to believe that there's going to be an uptick for a player of this caliber in terms of his ability. And lastly, before we get into kind of what has to happen from here, the last positive note is that Aaron Hicks and Josh Donaldson are gone. We've wiped our hands. Hal has paid the money. They are now gone. We do not have to deal with that any longer. Now, in realizing, obviously, that Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman are staying at least through the 2024 season, there's still a lot to do for this team. So the reality is that they're going to need to bring in a new hitting coach. Sean Casey has already said he's not coming back. He's spending time with family, and more power to him. I don't think that someone as positive and uplifting as Sean Casey should be dealing with the grind that is the New York Yankees right now and the struggles that they have. Now, I think that Casey did a good job in explaining things differently. Obviously, we saw an uptick in the production of DJ LeMahieu. Now, to me, part of that was DJ finally starting to get healthy and maybe a difference in the way that things were communicated to him. But nevertheless, because Sean Casey is not coming back, you're going to have to hire a new hitting coach. Now, to me, there's a few names that could be, tossed around for that position. One such name, and I know that this is probably going to be extremely controversial, and I don't even think that this person would even really consider the job, but I think that Barry Bonds would be someone that I would like the Yankees to at least talk to, have a conversation with about the open hitting coach spot. Now, yes, obviously all the PED jokes are going to get tossed around and mentioned at the name of Barry Bonds. But the simple fact is when you listen to Barry speak about the art of hitting, there's almost no one that you hear speak about it in that manner. And I genuinely believe that Bonds presence in that dugout to be able to push guys, to be able to just pinpoint those small little things to try to make them better would absolutely help this team. Now, again, I don't think that Barry would go for it, but nevertheless, I do think that that's a name that can be mentioned. I also think that the guy who I've been looking for as the new manager, Carlos Beltran, could be another name that gets added to that list. Now, is Beltran going to be the same type of analytically pinpoint accurate hitter that Barry Bonds was? No. But what I do believe that can happen with a guy like Carlos Beltran is the fire in the dugout. And I think that when you can start to get that with a guy who is a switch hitter, capable of demonstrating what's necessary on both sides of the plate, I also believe that a guy like Carlos Beltran could help some of the younger guys, Oswaldo Cabrera and Oswald Peraza, Anthony Volpe. I think these guys could truly benefit from the legendary status and the brilliant mind that is Carlos Beltran. So, genuinely, another person that could be put into that position. Lastly, and I really don't think that this would even really be an option because I think that secretly the Yankees are super angry towards this person, but Aaron Judge's personal hitting coach, Richard Shank. I think that if they were to bring in the hit guru that absolutely fixed Aaron Judge's swing from a guy who hit, well under 200, struck out half the time when he first came up in 2016, to the absolute force and phenom that Judge became in 2017 and thereafter, this could absolutely be someone that the Yankees can speak to bring in, even if it's just as a consultant, maybe not the everyday hitting coach, but even as a consultant, because Aaron Judge goes up to the plate looking to put the ball in play, looking to be able to keep his bat in the hitting zone for much longer than what we see this, launch angle society that we have now in baseball going for. Aaron Judge obviously has tremendous power, obviously is capable of putting up, 40, 50, 60 home run seasons, but he's going up there trying to hit 300. And that's what the Yankees need more of. Period, point blank. The Yankees need more hitters and less power hitters. When you think about the dynasty of the 90s, the late 90s, those teams would grind out at bats because what they were trying to do was not hit home runs, but put the ball in play. Yes, you have home run hitters. You have guys that are going to be capable of hitting home runs. But I want to put this in perspective. When you have players that are going up there looking to hit home runs, their window of opportunity for success is extremely small. When you have players that go up there looking to put the ball in play, that window of success becomes much, much greater. The simple fact is that the Yankees have been far too reliant on the home run ball over the last several years. Now, yes, they're the Bronx Bombers. I get it. Home runs are the currency of the day. I get it. But the simple fact is that if you have a team full of 300 hitters who hit you 20 home runs, it is significantly better than a team that hits you 200 with 30 home runs. No doubt about it in my mind, the Yankees need to change their hitting philosophy, and that starts with a new hitting coach. The next thing, they need to send Giancarlo Stanton to drive line to completely change his swing. They also need to send him to a contortionist to be able to stretch him out. I genuinely believe that a healthy Giancarlo Stanton can truly help this New York Yankees squad in 2024. Because if you think back to when Stanton won the MVP with the Marlins, this was an everyday outfielder for the Marlins. Every day. And was he Gold Glove caliber? Absolutely not. But he was a competent defender and a genuine feared threat in the batter's box. And we have not seen that from Stanton in the New York Yankees lineup. And I genuinely believe that moving him to a sole DH was part of the biggest thing for that. It changed his mentality and it really, really set him back, in my opinion. Now, the Stanton that we saw in 2023 looked a lot slower when it comes to bat speed. And that is going to be the calling card for Stanton and his career is the bat speed that he has. Because when he hits home runs, they are line drives. They are powerful, impactful shots. And his bat looks slow this year. Now, there could have been injuries that he was dealing with and just kind of, knowing that he needed to be in the lineup, whatever. You send him to drive line and really revamp his swing. Look at what happened in 2023 for JP Crawford. He went to drive line and really became a much more potent bat for the Seattle Mariners this past season. How much more can a guy like Giancarlo Stanton, who's already a powerful and impactful bat in major leagues? He's a guy that teams fear when he steps into the box because what he's capable of doing. If he can refine that swing, refine that bat speed, and be able to get himself and his body into a position where instead of necessarily trying to hit home runs that are 120 miles off the bat, being able to kind of pull back, strengthen his core a bit more with stretches and going through that type of training this off season, we can get a much healthier, much more agile Giancarlo Stanton, which is a much more impactful threat. Next up, the Yankees absolutely, without a doubt, have to re-sign Wandy Peralta. This was one of the most important arms out of the pen for the Yankees this past season and over the past couple of seasons. This is an arm who is versatile, he's reliable, and he's reusable. You can put Wandy in multiple roles. You can use him in back-to-back days, and he is unfazed by the moment. He is a free agent. The Yankees need to bring him back and bring him back in a way that is going to be something that they can truly rely on and not have to overuse him, right? So it's not just bringing back Wandy, but bringing back some help for him as well. The Yankees need another reliable left arm in that bullpen because I do not want to see Nick Ramirez on the 2024 Yankees. I don't. Absolutely unreliable arm. Bring back some help for Wandy Peralta and bring back Wandy Peralta. Next up, I want the Yankees to bring back Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Now, a couple of years ago, I wanted nothing to do with IKF. But when the kids came up and IKF was moved into more of a bench role, a utility guy, he proved himself extremely valuable to the New York Yankees. And in doing so, showing he can play multiple spots in the outfield. We know he can play all three spots in the infield, short, second, and third. I believe that he's capable of playing first base if needed. We know that he's a backup catcher as well. Being able to have that level of versatility in one player is extremely valuable, especially in this day and age when teams are loading up in the bullpen. Being able to have a guy that you can plug in at different spots who is going to try to give you those competitive at bats, right? And we saw a much better bat out of IKF this past season than what we saw 2 years ago when we first got him. But being able to bring him back on a team-friendly deal is going to be what is most important. Obviously, a player like this gives you, reminiscent thoughts of a guy like Marwin Gonzalez with the Astros those years ago. Obviously, Marwin was not nearly the same player when he was with the Yanks, but the version that we saw with the Astros, the Ben Zobrist type, right? That type of model is what you can get from a guy like IKF. So I think that the Yankees should try to bring him back. Now, here's where we get to the fun part, right? Here's where we get to all of the big conversations of the offseason. The Yankees, in my opinion, are going to need a much more consistent and reliable third baseman. And in doing so, Jeimer Candelario is a guy who I believe the Yankees can contact. I think that when you look at what he is going to be in terms of this market this offseason, it is going to be an important opportunity for the Yankees to try to solidify themselves all throughout their lineup. Now, that being said, there are opportunities outside of the major league free agent waters to be able to make that happen. I think third base is the spot for the Yankees to be able to do so because at this point, what we saw from Gleyber Torres this past season, if he can maintain that, I don't want to lose Gleyber either. Obviously, Volpe is the shortstop day in and day out, and you have to believe that Anthony Rizzo is going to be much healthier. I also would like for DJ LeMahieu to find himself in a much more utility role as he was initially intended to be for the Yankees. I think that what we've seen over DJ the past couple of years is a decline in his skill set and his ability. And I think it's going to be a much bigger benefit to the Yankees and to himself if he's not playing as often. So again, I know it's a lot of money to have on sitting on the bench to be able to have that versatility, but the simple fact is that the Yankees are better when they have that versatility and that depth in their on their bench at any given moment. When you think back to those winning teams in the late 90s, they had high caliber players who would have been starters on other teams on their bench. And the Yankees have to get back to that if they're going to find themselves successful in 2024. Now, Jordan Montgomery has absolutely proven himself not just postseason capable, Brian Cashman, but an absolute number one type starter in the postseason. That is the absolute biggest thing that I have been able to take away from the 2023 postseason is Jordan Montgomery's ability to be able to be a front line type starter. The Yankees need to go back and get Monty. Now, obviously, the big offseason target in terms of signing potential is Yoshinobu Yamamoto. The Yankees need to go hard to get this player. Being able to bring in Yamamoto does multiple things for the New York Yankees. Obviously, we know that Hal is very much concerned with the bottom line dollar figure of everything. Yamamoto brings you in another entire market. The same way that Matsui did, the same way that Masahiro Tanaka did. You bring in Yamamoto, you bring in a bigger audience and a much more fervent offense. This is an opportunity for the Yankees to be able to bring in another market and more revenue, which is what they're all looking for, right? But beyond that, on the field side of things, you're bringing in a high caliber pitcher who is going to be capable of pairing with your already high caliber pitchers. When you think about what the Yankees have right now in their rotation, obviously Garrett Cole is number one. You expect a bounce back from Carlos Rodon. You expect a healthy Nestor Cortez. And then you also now have a absolutely blossoming star in both Clark Schmidt and Michael King. You bring in Yamamoto. It allows you to flip-flop between a 5, maybe 6-man rotation at times throughout the season, but also having those high caliber arms in Schmidt and King be able to serve as bullpen guys. This is a must move for the New York Yankees this offseason. They cannot lose a bidding war for Yamamoto this offseason. Now, one of the other things that, in my opinion, the Yankees are in dire need of, and it's no secret, we've known it for the last several years, but they need another legitimate outfielder, a left fielder, someone who's going to be capable of providing them with quality defense and quality offense. There are a couple of different players, in my opinion, that the Yankees could target in trades. We're going to get into some more realistic options and then obviously the spectacle option, the fantasy option, if you will. I think the Yankees could have a conversation with two teams in particular for 3 different players. I think the Yankees can contact the Angels because they're absolutely going to be a travesty in 2024 and try to target former number 1 overall Mickey Moniak. Now, Moniak was absolutely bombing and failed out of Philadelphia, which is why he got moved for Brandon Marsh. But in his time in California with the Angels, I think that Moniak has really started to find himself in a position where he's going to be capable of being a solid contributor at the bottom of a lineup and being able to be a left-handed bat, provide quality defense in Yankee Stadium. We know that left field at Yankee Stadium is much more grandiose and is going to be more of a center field type, and that's exactly what Moniak was. He was a center fielder who's now playing in left field. This is going to be something that defensively he's going to be capable of handling. I think obviously there's going to be a lot of talk of Cody Bellinger in the offseason because of the tremendous season that he had with the Cubs. 1, I think he goes back to the Cubs. But 2, I don't necessarily know that mentally Cody Bellinger is going to be a fit for New York. The Yankees could have had an opportunity to bring him in last offseason. They really didn't go down that path. Now, obviously, he was coming off of some down seasons, was released by the Dodgers. So you really weren't sure what you were getting. I thought he was going to bounce back without a doubt because I think that he was finally healthy. He proved that this past season with a good season. I don't think the Yankees are really going to target that. I also think that it's going to be because Cody's going to cost too much. A trade for a guy like Mickey Moniak is not going to cost them nearly as much. Now, the other team that I think that the Yankees could talk to about some outfield options is the San Francisco Giants. San Francisco is in a position right now where they're trying to figure out who they are, what they are in that National League West. So the two players that I think that they could have a conversation about are Mike Yastrzemski and Lamont Wade Jr. I think that for New York, both of these players are going to be quality options. And yes, there's going to be some injury concerns, no doubt about it. I mean, that happens with all players. But I think that both of these guys could really benefit from a move from San Francisco in terms of their offensive capabilities. And I also think that they both provide some defensive versatility. Yastrzemski can play all three outfield spots. Wade can play first base as well as the outfield. So when you do the thinking process on these players, they absolutely could help the New York Yankees in a very big way in 2024 to solidify that left field spot, but also providing some depth to this organization. Now, the big name, obviously, that is going to be bantered about on the trade market is that of Juan Soto. No doubt about it, the New York Yankees should absolutely have conversations with the Padres about it. It's already been reported this offseason that they have had conversations with the Padres about Juan Soto. If Soto is available, and it's a big if, because I don't necessarily believe fully that San Diego is going to be shopping Juan Soto. I think it's going to be one of these things where if they get the right kind of deal, they'll bite. But I don't necessarily think that it is going to be something that they are going to actively shop him. So again, if he's available, the Yankees need to not just have one conversation, but two and three, and try to get down the line in terms of what they're going to be able to get, what it's going to take to be able to get Juan Soto. Now, Sean Casey, the former now former hitting coach of the New York Yankees, was on his podcast and had this to say about the Yankees and their really their need for Juan Soto. They need it, man. Yankees need a star left-handed bat. Juan Soto would be that guy for me. There's no doubt about it. Juan Soto is a legitimate force. He is a young left-handed bat. Yes, he is going to be a free agent this offseason. And that is going to be the biggest kind of question mark and potential deterrent for the Yankees in terms of acquiring him, because it's going to cost a heavy prospect package. Now, it's not going to cost nearly as much as what the Padres paid to get him from the Nationals because they had a lot more time on the books left. But it's still going to cost something pretty significant to be able to bring back a player of this caliber. Now, why I think it's so significant that the Yankees make these inroads to try to figure out if this is a player that is going to be moved and make those moves is for two reasons. One, the Astros have also been connected to trying to potentially get the services of Juan Soto. Last thing you want, and this would absolutely cause an uproar in Yankee universe, is if the Astros of all people get Juan Soto. Secondly, though, and more importantly, the need for a power left-handed bat with plate discipline in New York is monumental. I also believe that the Yankees are one of the few teams that would have the ability to sign him long term. We know that he kind of has a leaning towards the East Coast, being able to be closer to the Dominican Republic, where his mom can come visit more often. That's already been reported. Being able to have a star back in New York to pair with the star you already have in Aaron Judge, the star you already have in Garrett Cole, and the star you already have in name in Giancarlo Stanton absolutely would benefit this team. I also believe that it not only would give the Yankees an opportunity to have another left-handed bat in their lineup, which they desperately, desperately need, but you also lengthen your lineup. You now would have a lineup, a potent lineup that would feature Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Anthony Rizzo, Gleyber Torres, Giancarlo Stanton, Anthony Volpe. So you're now starting to see the length of the lineup once again come back. When you think back to the 2009 New York Yankees, you had to go sometimes 7 or 8 players deep before you got to what would have been considered the weakness. When you're talking about that lineup with Jeter, Damon, Teixeira, A-Rod, Cano, Matsui, Posada, Swisher. Now you're talking all the way through the lineup. There's a battle each and every at bat. The Yankees have to get back to that. And the best way to do it is to bring in the modern day Ted Williams, the man with the best eye in the business right now, in Juan Soto. Obviously, it's going to cost a lot to be able to do so, but the Yankees are going to have to pay the price for their misjudgments and signings, mistrades over the past several years. And the best way to do it is to get a proven commodity and someone who I believe can handle New York and help bring a championship back to the Bronx. But I want to hear from you. I know this was a long video, a long laundry list of things that the Yankees need to do, and kind of again the post-mortem of the 2023 season. But there's no doubt about it for me. I believe that this team is capable of good things. I think that this organization and even this front office with Brian Cashman at the helm is capable of doing good things. The Yankees captain, their star Aaron Judge, has already said after receiving and winning his Roberto Clemente Award, which shout out to him for that. But he's already said that he believes that there's a lot of work to be done, and that there's going to be some things that happen this offseason. And I genuinely believe him. The captain is not a liar. So I believe that the Yankees are going to be active this offseason. Now, whether or not they make the moves that people like myself and the rest of the fan base are clamoring for, or whether they do other things, we'll have to wait and see. But nevertheless, I do believe that this organization is going to be active, and I think that they're going to find themselves in a much better position in 2024. Call me hopeful, call me a homer, whatever you want. But nevertheless, I genuinely believe that the track record of this franchise leads to success. So thank you for tuning in to the Baseball Banter broadcast. Again, let me know your thoughts, feelings down in the comments. Make sure you follow here, subscribe here on YouTube, follow us on all our social media outlets, on Twitter or X at banter_baseball. Everywhere else is Baseball Banter Broadcast. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Peace.